Alright, my loves, welcome back to another movie recap video. Happy March! That's crazy. I feel like I literally just sat here and said happy February, but happy March. We are back in a different corner of my flat. We have a new huge monstera. Well, she's not new, but she's finally moved in. Huge monstera. We have a couch to sit on now. We're constantly developing, we're evolving. I am back with my February movie thoughts and reviews. I watched another 10 movies in February, and of course I can't shut up about it, so I'm here to give you all of my thoughts and my opinions about all of the ones that I watched. This month all of my movies were about different types of love, so let's get into it. You know the drill. Get comfy, get your snacks, get your drinks, and I will start yapping. Now, just as a reminder, if you're new here, all throughout 2026, I'm going to be doing a film watching challenge, if you will. So I'm watching 10 new movies that I've never seen before every month. And then at the end of the month, I'm going to compile all of my thoughts and feelings and recommendations and come talk to you about it so that maybe you can find some new recommendations for things that I think you should watch. But as always, these are all just my opinions, so please don't take anything too seriously. I'm literally just yapping because I really like films and I want to spread my opinions out there, I guess. All of the details for this challenge that I'm doing are in my 2025 movie recap video. I will link it down below in the description, so if you haven't watched that or if you just want to refresh yourself on the rules, I would recommend you go watch that first and then come back to this video as well. Now, for each of the months of the year, I have a separate category or a theme, so that kind of dictates the movies that I'm watching that month. And for February, that theme was love. Yes, that sounds really broad. I made it a really broad category on purpose because I didn't just want to be watching rom-coms all throughout February. So I'm counting all types of love, from obviously romantic to platonic to love between family members or relatives, and I even have one movie that's about love, if you can call it that, or affection between a man and AI. Also, if you hear any noise, my literal next door neighbors on the other side of this wall are renovating. Yep. So if you hear any noise, it's that. I will be focusing obviously on the plot partially and my thoughts on the films as well, but just because our theme this month or last month was love, I thought it would also be fun to kind of evaluate the movie based on the relationships between the characters and the, I don't want to say amount of love, but the scale of love that I personally thought that these movies had. So I'm going to be including a little love meter or a love scale and discuss the movies in terms of the relationships between the characters as well. I have some very fun and interesting and beautiful heartfelt movies to get through today. I will say I had a very difficult time narrowing it down from all of my options. Obviously, like I said, it's a really broad category, so I had like literally 25 films on my Letterboxd list of options for that month. So it was very difficult narrowing down the 10 movies that I'm going to be talking about today. And there's so many others that I wish I had time to watch, but unfortunately February is 28 days. I had to narrow it down a lot from all of my options, but I do have 10 really awesome, cool films to talk to you about today, so I hope that you're excited because I definitely am. And without further ado, I will get on to the 10 films that I watched last month. So, editor, get it on screen in chronological order of watching these films. My 10 films of February are Ten Dance by director Keishi Otomo, Shiva Baby by director Emma Seligman, Hunt for the Wilderpeople by director Taika Waititi, Young Hearts by director Anthony Shatteman, Chungking Express by director Wong Kar-Wai, Her by director Spike Jonze, A Nice Indian Boy by director Roshan Sethi, Sense and Sensibility by director Ang Lee, Hamnet by director Chloé Zhao, and The Joy Luck Club by director Wang. Also, this time around, I thought it would be fun, instead of the chronological order, to talk about these films in order of least love to most love on my love scale. So that's what we're gonna be doing. The order doesn't correspond necessarily to my rating of the film, so don't get that twisted. The order isn't really that it's not really that serious, but I thought it would be fun to do a little love meter regulated order for this video, so that's what we're doing. First up on my review list is the movie Ten Dance. Now I was a little bit upset by this film because it's gorgeous. Like, cinematically, the visuals and everything is beautiful in this film, but there's very little substance. From the first scene, the cinematography is so good that I was locked in. I was like, this is gonna be amazing, but there is actually very little substance to the story and the characters. And that really pissed me off. It's a Netflix movie, and I saw quite a lot of hype on TikTok, which I should never trust, to be honest. I saw quite a lot of edits and reviews and hype in general on TikTok for this film, and that's why I watched it. It's kind of like a heated rivalry sort of premise. Just to tell you a little bit about the plot, the two main characters are really talented rival ballroom dancers, and one of them is a master of like all of the Latin dances, so rumba, samba, like jive, all of those ones. And he's super like hot-headed, and they say that he's half Cuban, half Japanese. His Cuban side is like, just makes him just like want to fuck and like want to dance and just want to mess around with people with no consequences. Like, he's very like non-committal. The film makes it seem like it's because of his Cuban side. And it's a little bit like, so what you're saying is that Cuban people are all like that. And that's a little bit like, if you think about it, it's a bit, you can't really be saying that. And then the other main guy is a champion of like the traditional ballroom dances, so the waltzes and tango and foxtrot and stuff like that. And he is seemingly very cool and kind of like detached and aloof, pretty much just has a stick up his ass and doesn't really do anything fun ever. And these two guys begin to train each other and their partners. They both of them have dance partners as well, so these two pairs begin to train each other in their respective like dances that they're good at for this one specific competition that is called Ten Dance, where every pair has to perform all 10 of the main ballroom dances. So 5 Latin, 5 traditional ballroom dances. And while they train each other, they begin to fall in love. And that's the premise. Get into it. So yeah, like I said, they begin to train each other and then eventually fall in love. Except there's not really any reason for them to even like each other or fall in love, and also it's not really love, it's just lust. After watching this, I did some research into the source material because this movie is based on a manga, and in the source material manga, these two guys are fully straight. Like, the whole issue of their relationship is that both of them are fully straight, so they can never be together. That's what I found out from my research. And that's the conflict of their relationship. So they are falling in love, supposedly, but they can't ever be together because they're both straight. So actually, how does that make sense? So what is happening? What is happening here? Another thing that was really upsetting to me when I was watching this is there's literally no depth to these characters. All we find out about half Cuban guy is that he's half Cuban, and that causes him to not want to take anything seriously besides dancing. And then all we find out about the other guy is that he's had a rough childhood, so he's really like, he doesn't really want to really get to know anybody, and he's super like cold and detached. The story isn't really that interesting. The premise is cool, but it doesn't develop anywhere from there. Like, from the first, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, the story stops developing. The whole reason for these characters to get together is the 10 dance competition, and they don't even go to 10 dance at the end of the movie. We never get to 10 dance. That never happens. So it's a bit redundant, isn't it? Why is the movie called 10 dance if we don't actually go to 10 dance ever? Make that make sense. The themes aren't really compelling. The characters themselves aren't really compelling. And then they're supposedly straight. So doesn't that make the whole story redundant then? Yeah. Why are they falling in love if they can't fall in love? I don't know, it pissed me off, but it's a beautiful movie. So if you don't really care about substance and more care about visuals, then you might like this. And they dance really, really well. From like an amateur perspective, I don't really know much about ballroom dance, but I thought they looked beautiful dancing. And there's one scene towards like the middle of the film that looks like Wong Kar-Wai directed it. So if you're a fan of his work, maybe just watch it for that scene. But I will warn you, if you're like super into character development and deep stories and stuff, it's not going to be that. Sorry. Next up on our love scale is Shiva Baby, directed by Seligman. Now, I kind of found this movie to be a little bit meh, maybe just because obviously we're looking at it through our category being love. I thought it was going to be something that it was not. But basically this film is about a college-aged woman who goes back to visit her family for a Shiva that was organized because of a death of an auntie or some family member, I can't really remember. And she meets all of her family, and then at the Shiva she also runs into her ex-girlfriend and also her current sugar daddy at the Shiva. Yep. The premise was really interesting. When I tell you, I was so stressed out the entire duration of this film because of the goddamn drama that was happening, unfolding in front of my eyes, that this poor girl had to go through at this family gathering. If I had 2 words to describe this movie, it would be crash out. Right? Crash out. Because I would have crashed out pretty much like 20 minutes in. Not even. And this is a 78-minute long film, right? I really don't know why she didn't just leave this family gathering like after, I don't know, half an hour. I would have left. If that stuff kept happening to me, what she went through in that film, I would have left. Not even halfway through. Considering that our category is love, I can't really rate it too high on the list. It definitely has themes of love, obviously, between her and her ex, kind of discussing getting back together. There's definitely love from her family and her parents towards her, but we see it through the lens of how the main character is interpreting it, and it's coming in more as like pressure and expectations and being overbearing. But just seeing as this theme for this video is love, I'm gonna have to rate it lower on our love scale. The expectations versus where the movie went towards the end was not fully on the same level for me, and maybe that's my fault, you know. I'm not blaming anybody except me. It wasn't my favorite film of the month. I do think there's probably a lot of young people especially who can relate to this main character, and obviously it was filled with drama. I don't really want to get into it because if you're gonna watch it, I feel like you have to experience it for yourself. But yeah, it's a crash out. It's not even a film, it's just a crash out. And that's that. Okay, now we're getting into it because we're gonna talk about the goddamn AI film. So this next one is called Her. It's a 2013 movie about a man who is played by Joaquin Phoenix, first of all. He's super lonely, he is heartbroken, he's kind of lost his direction in life. He's just moving through every day as if it's the same, and he doesn't really have any passion for life anymore because of the heartbreak that he's been through. And he ends up buying an AI companion and he falls in love with her. Yeah. And then we kind of explore all of the issues that come from this relationship, which include but are not limited to the fact that she doesn't have a body. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. That's all I can say. It's very on topic right now, obviously, with the discourse about AI that's been going on for the past few years. I do find it really strange that people would fall in love or like create some sort of romantic attachment with an AI when that is essentially, especially when it's a large language model, like, it's me again, I actually did a terrible job trying to explain what a large language model is in this video, so I'm just gonna hop in and do that now. But what I was getting at is basically a large language model is a type of AI that uses probability to put words together by scouring the internet for any type of text, basically, and it doesn't do source checking for correct information or anything like that. And that's why people always say, like, you can't really trust an AI like ChatGPT, for example, to give you correct information because it does not check its sources and it just draws on any text that it finds online. Basically, what I'm gonna get into is the fact that if you're using, for example, ChatGPT for example, personal advice or building a relationship with the AI, you are kind of programming it at the same time because it's constantly adapting to the way that you speak or you write to it and responding to that based on what it thinks that you would respond to the best, if that makes sense. The AI companion in this film is not a large language model, but I'm just relating it back to ChatGPT, for example, because that is probably the most widely used model of AI at the moment. And there's heaps of other large language models that people use as well. So I just related it back to that because it's the most common version of AI we have right now. It's not real. Like, sorry, it's so strange to me. You're programming in real time. You are programming this thing that you call a partner or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. It's just responding to what you tell it, developing and evolving because of that. So it's all just your programming, right? So it's kind of like being in love with yourself, isn't it? If you really think about it, if you created that thing based on whatever base programming obviously is put into it when you buy it, in this case, in the case of the movie, and then every kind of input that comes after that is from him. So also, like I said, this film was made in 2013, which is 13 years ago, right? 13 years ago. I don't know what you were doing in 2013, but I was 12 years old, not even, I was 11 years old, and I was definitely not thinking about AI. The thing that got me really thinking around this film was the fact that watching it today in 2026 is such a different experience than an average person watching it in 2013, because in like the average person's household, there was very little conversation about AI at that point. And today, everybody's talking about it. In 2013, when this film came out, it would have felt so far-fetched to watch a film about a man falling in love with AI. Like, that would have felt like such a far-off reality. And then just 13 years later, watching it now, it's like, that's what some people are doing in their bedrooms with their ChatGPT. Like, it's happening in real life, and it's super scary. And it's, if you watch this film, it's very Black Mirror coded. If you love Black Mirror, you should watch this film. I don't know, I just found it really funny. I just found it really funny, to be honest, but it's so meta and kind of strange to get into this idea that it's okay for this guy to be fully in love with his AI thing that's literally just a voice in his head and a camera that watches him. Like, she can see him through a camera, but she doesn't have like any sort of visual representation of who she is. I don't know, maybe my mind isn't developed enough to fully grasp the concept, but it's just so strange for me. I'm actually just gonna read you a few of my quotes and like thoughts that I wrote when I was watching this film. Men will do anything but go to therapy. Very true for this film. AI is so scary, oh my god, all caps. AI said, what if your butthole was in your armpit? And he really thought that that was the funniest thing that he's ever heard. Like, the way he laughed at that joke. Also, I did have some really good quotes that came from this film. I can understand how the limited perspective of an artificial mind would perceive it that way. I'm gonna be using that in the future. And then, do you mind if I communicate with Alan post-verbally? Come on now. Come on now. I'll be using both of those. But then also, because of some of the conflict that came from this relationship in the film, it got me kind of thinking about AI rights or like ethics. Not trying to spoil anything, but it becomes an issue that the AI girlfriend becomes jealous kind of real life women who have bodies and who are able to perceive the world in a human way and feel things that she can't feel as AI. So it got me thinking about like the ethics. If we develop AI to the extent that they become so self-aware that they know that they're missing out on something and they can't experience everything that a human can experience, and they become jealous about that fact, and there's nothing they can do to change it, isn't that unfair to the AI? Isn't that unethical then, to develop AI to a point? I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. Isn't it gonna make the AI emotionally suffer? Do we need to consider the feelings of a non-human programmed thing just because it thinks that it's alive or it considers itself alive? Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Love is still love, even if I don't understand it, as long as the person who is actually feeling it and going through it experiences it as love, even if it's towards AI. I guess that is still love, even if I see it as psychosis. But also, I will leave you with this very philosophical thought. In a world where your girlfriend's existence is reliant on the fact that there is electricity, right? What happens when there is a worldwide blackout, power outage, or simply what happens when your fucking laptop runs out of battery? Moving on. Next movie that we are chatting about is Hunt for the Wilderpeople by Taika Waititi, who is a New Zealand director. I love all of the films I've seen from him basically at this point. I just know if I'm going to watch a Taika Waititi film, I already know what I need to expect and what I'm going to see. I know I'm going to love it as well. This movie really made me miss New Zealand. But I thought it was fantastic. It takes up some themes and topics that I feel like are really important. Obviously, found family is part of it, but also it deals with kind of the foster care system in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I thought that that was a really important topic to bring up as well. So that's part of why I really loved the film. But also I thought that the casting was fantastically done. The actor Julian Dennison, who plays Ricky, the main character of this film, I thought he was absolutely fantastic at his young age as well. His line delivery was just so hilarious. It had me cracking up at all of his jokes. I thought it was so funny, so heartfelt as well. Oh, let me tell you about the plot a little bit. So it's about our main guy, Ricky, who is a child who's been within the New Zealand foster care system for a while, and he's struggled with finding a family that he wants to stay at and really feels at home with, and he goes to this family who live out in the bush somewhere close-ish to Auckland, maybe in the Waikato region, maybe, I'm not sure, but he goes to live with them and he becomes really close with his foster mum, and she passes away, she dies. And then he is left with his foster dad, who didn't want him there in the first place. The film kind of follows the development of their relationship, Ricky's and his foster dad's relationship, as they are running from the police. Yeah. So yeah, I thought just the premise of the film is really fun. I love the fact that it deals with found family, and like I said, but also kind of recounts the growth of the love between Ricky and his foster dad, and kind of shows how they go through this experience together, and it brings them closer. All of the acting performances in this film are great. The writing is really witty and funny. The jokes land. Like, it's a hard hitter. It's a hard hitter, girl. It's a really wholesome story about found family, especially with the focus on obviously Ricky's and his stepdad's relationship throughout, and then the plot of the movie really feeds into that relationship development super well. So I thought it was just a brilliant concoction, if you will. Yeah, I thought it was perfect, and I really miss New Zealand, so that didn't help. I definitely think that this film has earned a spot in my like comfort films rotation, so I will be watching this very much often throughout the year and the years to come. Next up, we have a film by one of my favorite directors, Wong Kar-Wai. It is Chungking Express. As soon as I started watching it, I wrote down, first shot, I'm already so sold. And then later on, I wrote, and then California Dreaming started playing. And I was even more sad than I already was at the start of the film. There is just something about the way Wong Kar-Wai depicts the environments in his films that is so vibrant and alive. I've never been to Hong Kong, but I felt like I could feel the energy of Hong Kong through this film, and I felt like I could, like, if I could just reach into the screen, I could like smell the environment. I could like get all of the smells of the street food and the traffic and the city around them. Like, it was so vivid. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I loved it. It was amazing. All of the colors, the editing, the shots, the like cinematography in general was just, I mean, that's what Wong Kar-Wai is known for as well. Fantastic. Just perfection. There's some kind of magic that he just infuses in his work. This movie was no different from everything else that he's done. It was so nice. And then there's the fact that these characters are all just literally yearning. If you don't know the story, it is two mostly separate stories about two policemen in Hong Kong who are getting over recent breakups and who fall in love with new people at the same time. It's so good. There's so much yearning. There's so much like grief, obviously, for love lost from both of these policemen. It's just so comforting. And then the song California Dreaming is just so perfect for the film as well. I love that song, so I'm a little bit biased. It's so good. Also, let me say this. Some of the most beautiful people ever are in this film. Obviously, it has Wong, right? Tony Leung as well. And then Takeshi Kaneshiro, bro. If you look anything like Takeshi Kaneshiro, my phone number is 0453. Anyways, I will be holding a Takeshi Kaneshiro lookalike competition at my flat. Maybe next week, Sunday maybe, or Saturday, whatever time. If you just show up, I'll be happy with any time. This movie is for the hopeless romantics of the world, and it made me really excited to watch more of Wong Kar-Wai's work as well in the future. So stay tuned, I guess. The next film on my list is Sense and Sensibility, which is a Jane Austen novel adaptation. First of all, I really wanted to include a period piece in the list of films this month because obviously they're known for people yearning and pining after loved ones and stuff. Naturally, this film was no different. There's enough yearning to go around in this movie. First of all, I love Emma Thompson. I think she's so talented. And the fact that she wrote the screenplay for this film and then played Eleanor as well. So good. So good. I really loved and enjoyed a lot of the characters. I loved Mrs. Jennings. I thought she was so funny. She was a great addition to the cast, and I feel like she really forced the plot forward in a really kind of natural way. I also don't think that Hugh Grant ever in his life has played a character as awkward as this guy. He looked so uncomfortable the entire time. I was like, Hugh, my love. I just want to like grab him and move him because he looked so uncomfortable in every scene. Poor thing. And for me personally, as a House fan, it was really quite gaggy to see Hugh Laurie pop up as one of the side characters slash cameos. In my mind, I cannot stop the Dr. House association when I see Hugh Laurie. So for me, it was like, oh wow, Dr. House somehow found a time machine and went back into the 1800s England and infiltrated like a random English family. Good for him. But the main thing that I really loved to see in this film, besides obviously the casting and the wardrobes, I thought were really lovely. The environment in general I thought was really well made. But what I loved the most was the relationship between the mum and the three sisters and the way they like stuck together and took care of each other. No questions asked. They never complained, even with all of the hardships that they were going through. It was the fact that the mum and three daughters relationships are so tight-knit and so just effortless, and the love between them flows so effortlessly in that film, That really bumped it up the love scale. And of course, the yearning. And now, if you see me around Helsinki performatively reading Jane Austen, you can mind your own business. Okay, this next one is another one of those like tug on your heartstrings, very heartfelt, very wholesome movies. This film is called A Nice Indian Boy. It was so wholesome. If you don't know the plot, it centers around Naveen, who is a doctor, and he falls in love with a white Hindu orphan artist dude. The film kind of depicts the struggles that they have in their relationship with Naveen's family and kind of getting them to accept their relationship as well. It was so wholesome. I cried a lot during this film, but it's not really saying that much because I cry super easily. I loved the way that after all of the troubles that they go through in their relationship, eventually Naveen's very traditional Indian family fully accept of his partner and they have a really, really heartfelt wedding. It's so lovely to see parents loving their children and their children's partners. I also have to say I really loved the editing of this film. I saw some people complain about it online, but I personally really loved it, especially at like towards the beginning of this movie. The editing of some of the clips and scenes is really giving kind of sitcom vibes, and I really liked it. I thought that was kind of clever. I will say though, some of the humor in this film is very like millennial queer coded. If you know, you know, and that will make sense, but if you don't, I feel like queer millennials will like live absolutely 1000% live for this film. Also, Naveen's dad is absolutely the cutest character that I've ever seen in my life. He just fully stole my heart. He's so sweet. I really liked his character arc and the transformation that he and his values go throughout the film. I feel like the relationship between especially Naveen and his dad, but also Naveen's partner and Naveen's dad could have also been explored a little bit further, maybe if they had more time throughout the film. I think that could have been explored on a deeper level, but it's definitely good as it is. It's definitely such a feel-good, like wholesome movie. So if you're looking for that kind of watch, I feel like you really enjoy this one. All right, this next one I thought was really brilliant. This is a movie that my lovely friend Ruby recommended that I watched. Hi Ruby. It is called The Joy Luck Club. It is such a heart-wrenching, I'm using heart-wrenching a lot in this video, but it's such a heart-wrenching movie, like love letter almost to women and to mother-daughter relationships. I think there's a lot of people out there who could relate to these women in this film and their experiences, the things that they go through, or a lot of people who could learn about them as well. So I highly recommend this film. I thought it was really well made, really well edited as well. Just to tell you a little bit about the plot of this film, it centers around 4 mothers and 4 daughters who all kind of recount and process almost their relationships and reflect on them through flashbacks. All of the 4 mothers are immigrants to US from China, and then all of their 4 daughters are first-generation American citizens. It really deals with that kind of generational trauma, the way that the mothers, obviously, who have experienced a whole different culture, have come to this new country and are trying to build better lives for their daughters, and then how the daughters are interpreting sometimes their well wishes and their parenting techniques in a very different way, and sometimes try to rebel against their mothers. And it just deals with this kind of complex relationship that often immigrant parents and children have. I thought it was really well made. I thought that each of the mother's stories and the daughter stories was given an equal amount of time and space, which is really difficult to do, obviously, in a very limited time. And then there's 8 main characters that you're talking about, and all of their stories is very different as well. So you get a full variety of different experiences that you can learn from emotionally but also relate to. I thought it was lovely. I cried a lot again. In the intro, there's a story that one of the mothers is telling her child, and then that story is kind of pulled through the whole film as kind of a red thread that's going through all of the stories, and it comes together at the end. And I thought that was really well done and well incorporated as well. Also, some of the visuals in these movies are so good, so like delicious. There's a traditional Chinese wedding at one part of the film, and just the colors in that scene, the reds are so crispy that I just literally want to bite it. It's a fantastic film. I would really, really recommend, especially if you are a mother or a daughter with a mother. Maybe watch it together. Really maximize the suffering. I definitely could relate. Obviously not from an immigrant standpoint, but from a daughter with mommy issues standpoint, I could really relate to some of the experiences and feelings that these daughters were going through. I thought it was just such a good reminder that moms are also just going through this life for the first time, and they're really just trying their best as well, and they deserve some grace. It's very easy to condemn them or to condemn any person from your own perspective. It's a good reminder that, you know, every person is just trying their best and everybody deserves some grace as well. It was great. It was lovely. Okay, we have another very heartfelt kind of feel-good film. Well, not really feel-good because I cried again, but you know, feel good is different for everybody. This is a Belgian film called Young Hearts. It centers around these two 12, 13-year-old boys who fall in love and then have to deal with accepting their sexuality, or specifically one of the boys, Elias, needs to come to terms with his own sexuality and explore that part of himself which he hadn't known about before. And his family as well, it deals with his relationship to his family and his fears regarding not being accepted by his family. Well, I don't want to spoil it. But in the end, the family finding out and being super loving towards him and very, very accepting of his relationship and his love towards this other boy. And it's just so wholesome, and it's such a lovely story that you'd wish that every kid could see, just to really like normalize obviously any types of feelings of love that any child could have, but also just to make sure that every child out there gets that kind of reassurance and confirmation that whatever they're feeling regards to their sexuality or their identity is okay and is acceptable and is totally normal for them to feel. And especially with the characters in this movie being so young, it was lovely. It's one of those films that I feel like really should be shown in middle schools or even elementary schools to kids, just to kind of facilitate the conversation around sexuality and acceptance of any type of sexuality and any type of person, and also just to normalize queer experiences and queer kids and queer love for children as well. I also see how this film can very easily be a comfort movie for a lot of queer people out there, or not even queer people, but especially queer people out there, because it is such a lovely story about getting that sort of family acceptance that pretty much everybody yearns for. After the internal struggle that Elias goes through in this movie, eventually he gets that sort of acceptance and love from his family, and you wish that any queer kid who is going through those sorts of feelings could get that sort of acceptance from their family. Unfortunately, it isn't always like that, but because of the family love and acceptance in this movie, I feel like it's such a comforting film for a lot of queer people out there who maybe didn't have that experience for themselves. All in all, it's a great film. It made me cry, of course. And yeah, if you want something that's gonna pull on your heartstrings and be a really wholesome film about children falling in love, then I would recommend this one. Last up, we have Hamnet. You know this was coming. I only saw it now because, as usual, films reach Finnish cinemas a lot later than the rest of the world apparently, so this only came out towards the start of February. If you're on cinema TikTok like me, you would have seen a lot of reviews for Hamnet, but I will give you mine. This film has the power of breaking people. I think that this film was just beautiful. If you don't know about the plot, first of all, where have you been? Because this film is just everywhere at this point. Basically, it tells the story of William Shakespeare and his wife Agnes. It kind of tells the story of how they meet and fall in love, and then they end up losing one of their children, their son Hamnet. And then it also deals with kind of how the both of them are dealing with the grief that they have for their dead dead son in their own different ways. It's really just beautiful. I was watching it with my mum. Both of us were just so thoroughly gagged by Jessie Buckley's acting abilities. Like, how is it possible that she did that in the film? If you've seen it, you'll know, but like Jessie Buckley did the most. For that performance, she should not only get every award in the world, but she should actually just get an Oscar every year from now on for this performance in Hamnet, because she is such a powerhouse. I really don't know how she did that. It seemed like she's so in character that it was just her. Like she is Agnes. There's no Jessie Buckley or Agnes. It's just the same person. Both me and my mum, after watching that film, were so gagged. We were like discussing it in the car on the way home. We were like, huh? How is it possible that Jessie Buckley did that? Also, the little boy who played Hamnet in the film, I think he's called Jacoby, is so good as well. Like I took one look at him and I started crying. What kind of sorcery is that? He was so fantastic as well. My guy did amazingly well. 10s across the board for all of the acting performances. Now, for the reason that I placed this film highest on my love scale in this video is because there's so much love here. There's love between Agnes and William for each other and for their children, but also there is so much grief in this film. Of course, grief is just love in a different form, and grief is just love with no place to go, and love for something that no longer exists or someone that no longer exists. That is why, because there's so much grief and beauty in this film for how Agnes and William both deal with their own grief within themselves and how that affects their relationship. It just had to be on top of the love scale for me. I found that the last scene of the film, which is the one where Agnes goes to the Globe Theatre in London to see the play Hamlet that William has put on at the Globe Theatre. Agnes goes to see it. First of all, the set design and everything of the Globe Theatre I thought was fantastic. It looked so good. But just also in terms of writing, that scene is so beautiful because Agnes has spent half of this film almost berating her husband for not being present, for being a distant person, and for not being there when Hamnet passed away, because at that time, Hamnet, Agnes and their 2 other children were living in Stratford and William was living in London, so he actually couldn't get there in time for when Hamnet passed away. And so Agnes has spent like pretty much half the movie berating him for not being there and for being a distant person. She finally gets to see with her own eyes the outlet that theatre and writing has been for William when it comes to dealing with the death of their son. She gets to see the product of William's grief and the thing that he has spent all of this time feeding his grief into this project. She gets to see it for the first time, and the final scene of the film is the first time that she really understands like how his mind works and how he has needed to process this grief in order to understand the passing of their son and come to terms with it as well. Yeah, it's so clear throughout the course of this film that she doesn't really understand him, or they don't really understand each other in a sense, and she doesn't really understand how his mind works and why he's so consumed by writing and theater. And that last scene is the first time where she is so exposed to it and she finally understands it, and how he has honored their dead son in the way of putting on this play. There's just a deep understanding in that last scene that is forged between them, and I thought that was really gorgeous. It's just a fantastic film. If you haven't seen it yet, I would highly recommend that you do. I would highly recommend that you watch it on a big screen. If you have a projector at home and like proper speaker systems and things, use that. If you have extra money to spend on a cinema visit, please do. All right, we have come to the end of the list for this month. I hope that you have enjoyed it and been able to take at least one movie recommendation to heart. Just to remind you as well of what my category/theme is for the movies that I'm watching in March. It is Academy Award Best Picture winners, on theme with the Oscars happening sometime in March. I'll be watching 10 or around 10 of the Best Picture winners that I haven't seen yet. So stay tuned for next month to see my thoughts on those ones. Yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed. I hope to see you again in April.